Sam, Joe DeCamera from 97.5, The Fanatic. Could you discuss the process that sort of went on in your own mind over these last couple of months of trying to attract what I obviously imagine is who you view to be the right coach long-term, as opposed to, for lack of a better phrase, a recycled coach for a year or two to hold it over in the midst of some tough times, and how much of a home run you feel like you hit to get the guy you really want, both short-term and long-term?
You know, I think it's fair to say we considered all the possibilities. We looked at a really wide swath. I'm a big believer in everything that good decisions come from good options and from having a number of things to look at and to consider, and we did. At the end of the day, I didn't want to mark time. I didn't want to mark time while we just waited for some future to get here. There's so much to be done to be the kind of organization that I hope for, and the kind of organization that I look up to, like San Antonio, like Oklahoma City, like Utah for many, many years. The way we view an organization that consistently does things in a way that puts themselves in a position to be successful over the long term. And I think we've got a long way to go, and I think we can make a lot of progress on that during this period. I think there's a lot of things we can do behind the scenes. I mean, Coach has been on our facility for 2 hours this morning, and the energy he brings to that has been a real eye-opener already as he's walking around, and we're talking about knocking down walls, and we're talking about we'll put people in this room together, and we'll do this differently, and we'll do that differently. There's so many things that we can make progress on that I was very, very focused on finding someone who was up for that. Finding someone, he tells great stories about San Antonio and about San Antonio before their facility and San Antonio after their facility, and what it was like to be young and in charge with the keys to the building, and what that looks like, and how to find the ways, subtle and not subtle, and with the power of the head coach or with the power of persuasion to flip on the lights and draw people in and make them comfortable when they're there and encourage them to stay a little longer and shoot a few more shots, or stay a little longer and watch a little more video. That's very, very much what I want. And honestly, I think that the sorts of things we'll need to really take the steps forward that we want to.
Sam, Brett had mentioned the short time he's going to have in getting assembling his staff. I'm assuming that he's going to have, full authority to pick the guys he want to work with. And if that is the case, what would you say to a guy like a Michael Curry or an Aaron McKee who've been loyal to you if they're not chosen for his staff?
I would say for me in particular, I've spoken to those two in particular already, and will speak to others, and I've told them the truth, which is everyone's open-minded, and everyone will sort of think about all the possibilities and will make some decisions, and I don't think it will be very long. I think everyone's anxious to get going in a big way, and those decisions will be what they are, but there's a process to follow there to have some discussions and to think about what our needs are. We started that a bit this morning, and I think we'll continue late into the evening, if I'm guessing.
Brett, Chris Murray, Philadelphia Sunday Sun. My question to you is talk about your experiences at developing young players, because you're going to have guys like Michael Carter-Williams, Nerlens Noel, and all that. Talk about that experience in San Antonio. How you expect to bring that here to Philadelphia in terms of developing and molding young players to doing what you want them to do?
What Sam just mentioned was true. My first year in San Antonio was the first year of their practice facility. They brought me from Australia to San Antonio and said, okay, you're the director of player development. I think there was 3 or 4 of me in the NBA at that stage. It was an initiative by Pop and R.C. Buford. And really, they did it without too many parameters. And so it was put on me to just try to figure it out. I've got this great facility, beautiful gyms, multiple hoops, and it became almost, if you build it, they will come, and they started to come, and then you had to figure out how to use it. And we tried to get energy in the gym. We wanted to create a structure and some type of system, and we ended up blocking off 20-minute segments with the point guards, then the bigs, and then the wings. And then we get extra help, and somebody would work on somebody's shooting, and then somebody would work on somebody's post moves, and slowly, progressively, it built. We need a staff, we need a mentality that is going to be heavily, heavily focused on development. And it's got to start from me, and it's got to start with the structure where we're practicing out of now, and then into the evolution of our own new practice facility. Pre-practice work, video work, come in my office, all those types of things contribute to how you develop somebody. Whether it's Tony Parker's jump shot, Bruce Bowen realizing that everybody double teams Tim Duncan, so you better get skilled at that single floor spot in the corner. Look at the evolution of Kawhi Leonard. We got fantastic development people in San Antonio. Everybody contributes, but we really have paid a lot of attention to that area. All those things come to my mind when you talk about trying to develop, especially Michael Carter-Williams.
Brett, Bob Ford, Philadelphia Inquirer. You've had a lot of important influences, coaching influences in your life, your dad and Pitino and I guess Lindsey Gaze. Where does Pop rank in that? And not talking about development now, but just talking about game night. I'm coaching, and how do I get my message across? How do I run a game? What did you take from him, and what are the sort of important things that he gave to you in that regard, since you got to sit next to him for so long?
The first word that comes to my mind, for whatever reason, is accountability. A mistake made against the Miami Heat in Game 6 is dealt with like we would deal with a mistake at Charlotte in January. There is a brutal honesty in regards to accountability. And when I think of him, I think of that. There's a human side of Pop that lots of people don't even understand. He's a good man. But there is a toughness and a competitiveness and a demanding, not negotiable stance that you can't help but bring with you. It's highly influencing. I am a defensive coach. I see the game through defense. All coaches, when it gets down, especially in big games, we're all crying to find ways, how do we score, how do we score? I get it. You win games putting the ball in the hole, too. His defensive mentality and his accountability and his toughness has tremendously influenced me. And there's a respect because the rules don't change. There's a consistency. Obviously, he's been a significant part of my basketball development.
Brett, John Marks from SheridanHoops.com and the Portland Press Herald. Can you talk about your New England background, how that shaped you, and even though you've been away from that area for a while, how it's sort of influenced you and gotten you to here?
As we just mentioned, how lucky am I to have been around the coaches that I have been around? You know, I have been around Hall of Fame coaches. Coach Pop is a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. Coach Pitino in September will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Last year, Lindsey Gaze, who's sort of the Pete Carrill of the South Pacific with his motion offense, was recently inducted into the FIBA Hall of Fame. And my father, who raised me, has been inducted into the New England Hall of Fame. And that is my background. I'm the son of a coach. I've been around the game my whole life. And my father was very much into fundamentals and discipline and going down to see Dean Smith and bringing me to the Garden to watch the Celtics-Sixers game. I can still, you know, to be sitting here is very surreal. I can still see Doc and McGinnis and Mo Cheeks and Tony, and I'm sitting there in the Garden with my Polaroid camera trying to get any shot I can. And it's a basketball thing that I've grown up in. And it's a fundamentals with my father, it's offense with Lindsey Gaze, it's individual instruction and a toughness with Coach Pitino and a fitness and a defense demanding and a structure and a system with Pop, along with 18 years of coaching and a few Olympic Games and a few World Championships. I've lived a very privileged life basketball-wise. And it gets me so excited to be able to come here and share that with our players and Michael and Nerlens and all of our guys. So my roots are New England, my roots are my father, and I've been around the game a long time.
Sam, Brett was pretty candid about his evaluation of the situation here, about how long the rebuild will take. He used the word painful at one point. Said that as he was considering it, maybe he had some second thoughts, had to look inside himself about whether to take the gig. So I'm wondering how much convincing you had to do. Did the cell job contribute to, I suppose, the protracted length of the process?
I wouldn't say that, the last part. I would say, and I think Brett would agree, I was pretty candid as well throughout the process, to be open about the challenges ahead of us, and to be open about the way I saw the future and how things might unfold. That's an important part. We sort of talk about like being partners, and then like we sort of like forget that word like the second day, right? That happens all too often. Like if you're going to go down a path like this, there has to be a lot of trust. There has to be a lot of trust. I think Brett would tell you there are many things I sort of revealed along the way when he was a candidate that I was trying to give him a chance to make a decision as well. Like you don't want to convince someone to go on what is a long journey together, and them not feel it in the deepest way, and them not be anything other than itching to do it. And he was, and by the end he was clearly itching to do it because he sees what I see, which is it's worth doing. It's worth doing.